Hello, good evening, and welcome back. It's time for some more red pills. So, the rough sex defense will be banned, says Justice Minister. Now, this comes on the back of cases of women dying at the hands of men, saying that, well, they consented to the more rough sex, predominantly it be strangulation and the like, choke play, if you will, and therefore women have died because of it. And with the result of this, they're saying that you shouldn't be able to get a lesser sentence if the woman consented to this, or, to quote them in their full context, to say that if the woman is dead, of course she can't defend herself, and the man can say that the woman did consent to it, whereas he just killed her and then latterly said that she consented to something that she didn't. As they say, dead men tell no tales. In that case, if somebody dies, you can say, well, hey, they consented to this before the fact, in which case, obviously I could do what I want. Now, the issue with this, that obviously it seems pretty cut and dry at first glance. I'm not denying that whatsoever, and I'm not trying to defend murderers. I don't think anybody is. But we do understand, as I think Gavin McInnes puts it the best, to say that the best sex is just on the cusp of a court case. Neither of us is suggesting murder, but in most male-female interactions, that the woman likes to feel like a woman and likes to feel that the man is being a man, and therefore does actually like to feel dominated by the man, likes to feel the strength of the man. Whatever size or capability the woman has, she still likes to feel small and weak when compared to the man. She likes to feel safe in his arms and know that he can overpower any enemies. Most of the time that this strength is shown is, of course, in interactions with her, in which case she prefers to be pinned down, choked, face in the pillow, whatever it might be, in order to show that strength that makes the woman feel more reassured, and it's more exciting for the woman involved, of course. So there was also autoerotic asphyxiation, or not necessarily auto, which is the self, but erotic asphyxiation, which is to say that when you have a lack of oxygen, the orgasms are exaggerated. That is to say that you enjoy them more if you have a lack of oxygen. Not too dissimilar from runner's high, as it happens. And of course, people enjoy this and want to make the most of this situation, in which case they encourage their partner to strangle them so that they don't have as much oxygen. It is normally the women who appreciate this because, of course, then they're being manhandled and they feel the strength of their partner or the person that they're with and enjoy it a lot more, and it's much more intense and they love it. I know that feminists absolutely hate this because they like to think that men and women should be equal strength, equal footing, all that, but the vast majority of women don't like it, and I'm sure you know this from your personal experience as well, that if you're more rough in the bedroom or wherever you want to do it, then obviously they enjoy it more. That is just the fact of the matter. So, getting rid of this defense, it adds to the concern, the anxiety that men face when hooking up with a woman in the first place. Because, obviously, the intent is that men won't kill a woman and then have a lesser sentence because of the rough sex defense. Perfectly understandable. But the unintended consequences are, of course, knowing that this doesn't just apply to strangulation and death. This applies to anything that the woman might consent to at the time, but then later withdraw consent. We've seen several rape accusations happen because of this, including one US student who was expelled from his university because of a female student who was getting very needy and clingy and wanted sex with him, and he denied it, and she ended up filing a sexual assault claim against him, despite him recording the entire interaction between them, proving his innocence. He was still expelled. So, although that they try and say in this article that it comes down to a he said, she said kind of situation, even if she consents and it is on video and it is obvious, this is still not enough. This is the same as we're seeing with prenuptial agreements, and I think Australia is the country that leads the world in this regard, to say that, oh, the woman wasn't in her right state of mind, therefore we're going to get rid of this prenuptial agreement. This is, of course, why we're seeing a lack of marriage and the reproduction rates deteriorate in the West, including Australia. because men do not trust the laws that women have access to. And this just goes to bolster their claim that even if a woman does decide to consent and then later changes her mind, if she prefers rough sex, as most women do, then she's got something that could be used as evidence of saying, you can see this photo I took of this red hand mark on my butt after sex, which shows that he was violent, and I didn't enjoy this, and I didn't consent, and yet he was violent, and therefore he deserves a prison sentence, because maybe she's ashamed of it. He's not the usual man that she would decide to sleep with, but maybe she was drunk or desperate or sad or whatever it was and consented to it at the time, but then later changed her mind and wanted to protect her image amongst her friends and social group, and didn't care at all about the prison time that the man would have in response to it. And unfortunately, now that the feminists have won far too much, the courts do of course favour women. The ideal of the law is of course to have equal protection amongst everybody. Therefore, even if you are a bigger, stronger person, you don't have special treatment because of your size and strength. That is the ideal. It is supposed to be an equal playing field, but it is not. We protect women. Women are valued, men are expendable. That's what we've seen for the history of humanity. That's why men only got the right to vote if they would forfeit their lives in war. Women got the right to vote because they're women. Women got labour-saving devices so they don't have to bend over so much and spend so much time working in the home, before men got life-saving devices to prevent things like black lung from coal mines. So they got dishwashers or washing machines to save a couple of hours before men got to save their lives. It's always been the case, and as far as I'm concerned, it always will be. And that's fine to an extent, but at this point it just takes it too far. And that is what we will see with a further deterioration of marriage rates and reproductive rates, that you can't expect this to go any further. Japan is leading the world in that regard of AI and sex robots, that I think that is definitely going to catch on in the rest of the world, where guys realise, well, it isn't, well, what's the point? We can try and woo over a woman who is going to be incredibly entitled. She's not going to appreciate what we do. If we get married, which of course she really wants, because she really likes the romantic gestures and loves overpriced diamond rings because of De Beers artificially inflating the cost of diamonds. In which case, yeah, they really want that, and then they're going to take half your stuff when they're not satisfied anymore because you're not working hard enough. But of course, if you are working that hard, then they're not going to be spending enough time with you, in which case they want an affair because you're not around enough, even though you're paying for their standard of living. So it's a lose-lose for guys, and the more that guys realise that, and the more that technology improves, then the more you're going to have guys just turn to sex robots instead, and then of course the reproduction rate is going to decrease even further as guys choose that. So again, although this law is made with the best of intentions, the actual consequences and repercussions of it are going to be just negative. But to try and give them as much as support as they can muster, which really isn't much, the We Can't Center This group has collated 60 examples of women who were killed during so-called sex games gone wrong in the UK since 1972. 2 per year. Good going. I mean, not even that. Just over 1 per year. The group claims that 45% of these cases ended in a lesser charge of manslaughter, a lighter sentence, or the death not being investigated as a crime at all. So less than 1 per year. Probably not something to be focused on if you're looking for equality. There are also 115 people, all but one of whom are women, who have had to attend court where it is claimed they consented to violent injury, the group has said. Good. I think good. That you've got 114 women out of 115 people who were able to defend themselves and place their own defence, instead of it just being assumed. That is the idea. If you are part of a crime, if you're the defendant or the prosecuted, whichever it might be, that you do have a right to defend yourself and speak up for yourself, and I think it's important that you get that opportunity. If you wish to be in the witness protection program, or you want shielding or something like that, then of course that is available where necessary. So it isn't as if you're therefore vulnerable and have to look at your accuser in the eyes, because that isn't the case, and they don't have to look at you either. There are protections in place for that, so that isn't a problem. But they're trying to frame it as if women who were trying to get their point across are having a difficult time because we're not believing all women. Well, of course we're not going to, and we never should. So they say the violence used in non-fatal assaults included waterboarding, wounding, strangulation, beating, and asphyxiation. Asphyxiation, strangulation, basically the same. Yep, I know plenty of women I've known who would be into all of those. Definitely. Sorry, that's not really shocking, but maybe it's just shocking for people who haven't actually been around a bit and understand what women are into. So, as they say here, that Alex Chalk, applying for the government, said that it would be made crystal clear in the domestic abuse bill, but he was concerned the wording of the amendment would allow defence lawyers wiggle room, as it always is. That's why, like in any divorce, a third goes to him, a third goes to the wife, and a third goes to the lawyer. If you're lucky, otherwise it's half to the lawyer and half to her. That is always the way these things end up, because the lawyers are, of course, lobbying and looking for their own best interests, as everybody is, and they have the most power, so of course then, therefore, they're going to get the best deal. So the We Can't Consent to This campaign group said what had happened in Parliament was genuinely a big step forward, adding, "We should know within weeks what their proposals are and if they've gone far enough." They've gone too far. Early this month, Prime Minister's Questions, Conservative MP Laura Farris said the government had taken a lead on tackling domestic abuse, but said there was an ugly dimension that remains unresolved on the issue of the rough sex defence. Yes, the Conservative. It's like the left have gone with a sex negative, and they're just pursuing that full on, and then the right have gone with the religious and, it's got to be missionary, otherwise it's immoral. So for anybody who understands humans, you're fucked. But you can't be fucked, because that's going to be illegal. In response, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, "We are committed to ensuring that the law is made clear and that defence is inexcusable." Even though, obviously, it was there for a reason, and I think should definitely retain as it is. I mean, if you really want to make men nervous, then I suppose you're going to have to film everything beforehand. You're going to have to make porn of everything in order to say, okay, hey, so what's your name? How old are you? Where are you from? Do you know what we're going through? Yes. What do you like? What do you dislike? What do you consent to? Do you understand what to say as an amber warning that you need things lighter? Do you understand what is a red light situation where you need things to stop straight away? Good. And if you have a gag so you can't talk, what are you going to do in that regards if you want things to stop? Fantastic. You understand, you consent, you know what the role play is that we're going to be going over today. Good. Right, well, let's get on with it. And then you have to show that entire thing. Is that actually what's going to be the case moving forward, that every sexual interaction has to be a porn just in case? Because let's say then the woman decides, oh yeah, I'm actually really into this guy and I want choking in order to exacerbate the orgasms. Does that mean he then has to start filming and say, cool, I know you're really enjoying this and I am as well, but we're going to have to take a moment so that I can film you while naked and then film us having sex in order to get you to consent and to see exactly what is happening. You don't want to be filmed having sex? Well, I'm afraid then we can't do it and you're going to have to leave. It's going to be one of those things where you can't have sex unless it is all filmed. And if you're worried about reproduction rates at the moment, then you're completely fucked. And that's where this is going. So, hey, I see why guys are going towards sex robots, and obviously I can't discourage it. The idea is to say that a woman is going to be far more rewarding for you and give you a greater meaning in life. But seeing the way that AIs are going and the way that the law is going, honestly, I don't think that's true anymore. I think you're going to be happy either way. I really do. So, it's It's your life, and if the law wants to stay this way and women want to stay this entitled, then do what you want to do. The progression of civilization isn't down to you, and why would you have children with somebody that is really unreliable and could possibly fuck you over in the future? You shouldn't, and that's bad for the child. So it's not selfish, it's thoughtful that you don't want to raise a child in a situation like that. So, good on you, I guess. And on that extraordinary red pill moment, until next time, have a good one.